The Persian Empire stretched from India to Kush, the largest kingdom the ancient world had ever known. In its heart stood Susa, the royal citadel where King Xerxes I reigned with absolute power. His court was a place of grandeur and political intrigue, gold-plated halls, marble pillars, and courtyards filled with fountains. Foreign envoys, noblemen, warriors, and scholars filled the palace, each one careful not to offend the unpredictable king. Far from the pomp of the palace, among the Jewish exiles scattered across Persia, lived a man named Mordecai of the tribe of Benjamin. Taken from Jerusalem during the Babylonian exile, Mordecai had settled in Susa and lived quietly, faithful to God's commands. He had adopted his young cousin Hadassah, orphaned at an early age. She was gentle, wise beyond her years, and possessed a beauty that seemed to radiate from within. To protect her identity, Mordecai called her by her Persian name, Esther. In the 3rd year of his reign, King Xerxes hosted a feast lasting 180 days, a display of unimaginable wealth. At the end, he held a final 7-day banquet for his nobles. Wine flowed freely, music filled the halls, and laughter echoed late into the night. On the 7th day, drunk with pride and wine, the king commanded Queen Vashti to appear wearing her royal crown, to display her beauty before the princes and people. But Vashti, valuing her dignity, refused. Humiliated in front of his court, the king's anger blazed. At the urging of his advisors, Vashti was deposed. A royal decree went out to every province. Every man should be master in his own house. Yet this act would set the stage for God's hidden plan. Messengers were sent throughout the empire to gather the most beautiful young women for the king's harem. They were to undergo 12 months of beauty treatments before appearing before the king. Among those chosen was Esther. Mordecai instructed her, "Do not reveal your people or your kindred." She obeyed, hiding her Jewish identity. In the women's quarters, she found favor with Haggai, the keeper of the women. She was given the best beauty treatments, special food, and servants. But Esther's charm was not just outward. Her humility and kindness won the hearts of everyone. When Esther's turn came to appear before the king, she asked for nothing extra except what Haggai advised. Her beauty and grace so captivated the king that he placed the royal crown on her head. A great banquet, the Feast of Esther, was proclaimed, and the provinces rejoiced. Yet, even as she took her place beside the most powerful man in the world, Esther kept her identity hidden, just as Mordecai had instructed. One day, as Mordecai sat at the king's gate, he overheard 2 palace guards plotting to assassinate the king. He told Esther, who warned the king in Mordecai's name. The plot was investigated, found true, and the men were executed. The event was recorded in the royal chronicles, but Mordecai received no reward. This seemingly small detail would later become the turning point of the story. Enter Haman the Agagite, a high-ranking noble whom the king elevated above all other officials. All the royal servants bowed before Haman, all except Mordecai. As a Jew, Mordecai would not bow to any man as if he were a god. Enraged, Haman scorned killing only Mordecai. Learning he was Jewish, Haman devised a plan to exterminate all Jews in the empire. Casting the lot, he fixed a date for their destruction. Then he persuaded the king. There is a certain people scattered abroad who do not keep the king's laws. It is not in the king's interest to tolerate them. Let them be destroyed. The king, trusting Haman, gave him his signet ring. A decree went out to every province. On the 13th day of the 12th month, all Jews, young and old, women and children, were to be annihilated. When Mordecai read the decree, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and wept bitterly in the streets of Susa. News reached Esther, who sent clothes for him, but he refused them. Through a messenger, Mordecai told her of Haman's plan and urged her to go before the king to plead for her people. Esther hesitated. Entering the king's presence without being summoned was punishable by death unless he extended the golden scepter. She had not been called in 30 days. Then Mordecai sent this timeless message. Do not think that because you are in the king's house you alone will escape. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place. But you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? These words lit a fire in Esther's soul. She replied, "Go, gather all the Jews in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maidens will fast as well. Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish." On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and entered the inner court. The king saw her, was pleased, and extended the golden scepter. She touched its tip and breathed a silent prayer of thanks. "What is your request, Queen Esther?" "Even up to half the kingdom, it shall be granted," the king said. Esther invited the king and Haman to a banquet. At the banquet, when asked again for her request, she simply invited them to a second banquet the next day. Haman left that first banquet puffed with pride, until he saw Mordecai, still refusing to bow. Consumed with rage, he built a gallows 75 feet high to hang Mordecai. That night, the king could not sleep. He ordered the royal chronicles to be read to him, and they recounted how Mordecai had exposed the assassination plot years earlier. Realizing Mordecai had never been honored, the king asked Haman, who had just entered the court, what should be done for the man the king delights to honor. Thinking the king meant him, Haman described a lavish honor, wearing the king's robe, riding the king's horse, led through the city by a noble proclaiming his glory. "Do just as you have described, for Mordecai the Jew," the king commanded. Humiliated, Haman had to parade Mordecai through the streets, shouting his honor. At the second banquet, the king once again asked Esther her request. This time, her voice was steady but urgent. "If I have found favor in your eyes, O king, and if it pleases you, grant me my life, and spare my people. For we have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated." The king demanded, "Who is he? Where is the man who dared to do such a thing?" Esther's eyes locked on Haman. "This wicked Haman is our adversary and enemy." Terror seized Haman. The king, in fury, stepped into the garden. Haman, desperate, fell onto Esther's couch to plead for his life. The king returned and saw this, misinterpreting it as an assault. "Will he even molest the queen while she is with me in the house?" the king roared. Harbona, one of the eunuchs, mentioned the gallows Haman had prepared for Mordecai. "Hang him on it," the king ordered. Haman was executed on the very gallows he had built for Mordecai. The king gave Haman's estate to Esther, and she appointed Mordecai over it. The king also gave Mordecai his signet ring, making him second in rank. But the first decree could not be revoked. Persian law was irreversible. So the king issued a new decree allowing the Jews to defend themselves. On the appointed day, the Jews struck down their enemies. The fear of Mordecai, now a man of great power, spread throughout the empire. The day of destruction became a day of deliverance, and was established as the Feast of Purim, a yearly celebration of God's hidden hand in saving his people. Esther remained in the palace, a queen who had risked her life to save her people. Mordecai continued to serve faithfully, seeking the good of the Jews and speaking peace to all his countrymen. The story of Esther and Mordecai became a testament for generations, that God's hand can work even in exile, even in silence, even when his name is never spoken, for such a time as this.